Hey guys, today we'll be going over my Game Boy video game collection. Let's go! So, the Game Boy system. I love this series of consoles. They're one of my favorite systems ever made, especially the Game Boy Advance one, which is the one that came after the Game Boy Color, which came after the original Game Boy. I really have to thank Nintendo for making my childhood and many other people's childhood so awesome, because this system is amazing. It's got a huge catalog of games, and it's very nostalgic for me, very nostalgic. I got actually my first Game Boy Advance in 24, 25, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember, somewhere along that time period. And like I was saying, it made my childhood that much better. I have a lot of good memories with this system, and I really love it. One of my favorite handheld systems ever made. Probably my favorite. I never actually owned the successor to it, the DS, the Nintendo DS. I never actually owned it. But I do own the Game Boy Advance, the original one, and also the following one, the SP. So right here, first I'm gonna show you my original Game Boy Advance. This is the original one. This one, like I was saying, it's the version, the advanced version. This came after the Game Boy Color version. First there was the original Game Boy, then there was the Game Boy Color, which added colors, and then there was this one, which is the Game Boy Advance. In this one, they changed the style of the button layout. In this one, you place your hands like this, you play like this. The controls are at the side instead of being like this, like it was in the past, vertically. This form factor is actually very much better. I really enjoy this form factor. In my opinion, every handheld system should be like this, with the A-B buttons here and the D-pads right here. This just makes it that much more comfortable. It just made it much more comfortable that the prior models, the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy original models. I got the wireless thingy attached here. This was used for trading Pokemons and battling other players. It was like Bluetooth. You would connect with other people with this wireless connector, and you could do versus battles and stuff like that. Yeah. Now right here we have the following model, which is my favorite model, which is the Game Boy Advance SP. I remember getting this one. I still remember the day I got this one. This is such an awesome system. I love it. It's red. It's so awesome looking. It opens and closes, as you can see. Now it's open. One of the best features this one had actually was the backlighting in the screen. In this one, you can actually toggle a backlighting on the screen, so you could see better. Because one of the major problems, probably the biggest problem, the Game Boy Advance had was the screen. The screen was very dark, and so when you were playing in low light environments, you could really not see that well. And this model basically added a backlighting in the screen, so now you can see it much better. I had it on all the time actually. Even when I was in good light, I had it on all the time, because it just looked much better. You could see the game you were playing much better, and so yeah. Also, one of the big positives also about this version is the fact that it uses rechargeable batteries. The Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy, the Color and the original model, use AA batteries. This one uses a rechargeable battery, so that's always a plus. And overall, it's a very nice system. I really like this one. The button layouts, as you can see, they're like sort of like the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color ones. They're not really like the Game Boy Advance model before it. But because of the form factor, it's still much more comfortable than the prior models. So yeah, the Game Boy Advance SP, still have it, guys. Very awesome system. Then there was also the Game Boy Advance Micro, which is like a mini version of the Game Boy Advance. I never actually liked it. I did play with it a little bit, but I never actually got it. I don't really like it that much. It's very tiny. The screen is so small. It's basically like this. It's just like this, but it's so small. Like you're seeing the screen in here. It's basically that. The body is basically the size of the screen of this Game Boy Advance. It's such a small handheld. I never actually liked it, and yeah, very small. Not really my favorite one. My least favorite one actually. So yeah. So those were my my Game Boy Advance consoles, which I still have. I still cherish them to this day. And now I'll be going over my game cartridges. As you can see, I have all of them right here on the table. First, I'll be going over my Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges. Then I'll be going over my Game Boy Advance ones. Now, some of these games I don't remember now. I used to play them back in the day, but I haven't played them ever since. So some of them I can't really talk much because I don't remember how they play and stuff like that. And I'll mostly be going over talking and doing some small reviews of the Game Boy Advance ones, because those are the ones that I remember most and the ones I played the most. These ones I'll just briefly talk a little bit about them. So yeah. Unfortunately, I do not have the box covers. I don't have the box covers, unfortunately. I only have the physical cartridges. And this is because back in the day, my mother will throw away all the boxes. Yeah, all the boxes, she will throw them she will throw them to the trash. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. I still wish I had the boxes, because I'm a person who likes to collect stuff, and having the boxes just adds that much more value to the cartridges, as well as protecting them. And I love the box arts and stuff like that, and I wish I still had the boxes, but unfortunately my mother didn't want me to have the boxes, and she will throw them to the trash. So I only have the physical cartridges. So I'll be showing you right here the physical boxes and the artworks. So some of these cartridges are fake cartridges and are bootleg games. This is because excluding the Game Boy Advance ones, which I got in physical stores, the Game Boy and Game Boy Color ones, all of them were brought back in the day in street markets. And so my mother will buy them for me in street markets. And what that means is most of them are fake, pirated ROMs and bootleg cartridges and stuff like that. So some of these games are not really real. Some of them are ROM hacks, others are fakes. Some of them have the box art for a specific game, but it's not really that game. It's another game, so it's a swamp. So yeah. So first we have right here a lot of multi cartridges. We have right here a lot of multi cartridges. I'll just kind of leave some cover boxes right here. These basically are cartridges which have a lot of games on them. Some of them repeat themselves. Most of these have ROM hacks and bootleg games, like I was saying. They were bought in back in the day in street markets. So most of these have ROM hacks and stuff like that. There is actually one which I remember very profoundly, a ROM hack which one of these ones has, which is a ROM hack of Super Mario Land, but instead of playing as Mario, you play as Pikachu. It's actually a very well known ROM hack. It's called Super Pika Land. You can search videos online, you'll find the gameplays of that game. It's actually a very nice ROM hack, actually, very nice, very funny. You play as Pikachu, like I was saying. And yeah, most of those cartridges are basically just that ROM hacks and bootleg games. So now we'll be going over the single game cartridges, starting with Dragon Ball Z, The Legacy of Goku. Although this is not really Dragon Ball Z, The Legacy of Goku, this is Dragon Ball Z 322 Fighting. I believe this is a ROM hack, I'm not really sure. I tried to search online for information about this, but I only found a gameplay video of this game. I believe this is a ROM hack of some sorts with Dragon Ball Z characters. It's basically a 2D fighting game. I don't really know much about this game. I can't find many information online. Like I was saying, I only found this video right here, which you can see. So yeah, a 2D fighting game. Not really Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku, which is a Game Boy Advance game, which is an RPG. It's very nice actually, but yeah. And then right here we have Super Mario 4 and Super Mario Advance 4. These ones are basically, both of them are ROM hacks of a Japanese only game, Crayon Shin 4. These ones are basically that game, Crayon Shin, but they're a little bit modified. They have a lot of bottomless pits. Instead of playing as Shin, you play as Super Mario. The graphics are very weird. The intro to this game is very weird. You have Mario with some wings and his eyes roll all the way. It's very awkward. These games are very awkward. They're basically just that ROM hacks. This one, Super Mario 4, it's not a real game actually. This one, Super Mario Advance 4, is a Game Boy Advance game. It's I believe it's got a, I don't know if it's this box art. I believe it's this box art. It's a Game Boy Advance one. So yeah, just some ROM hacks. Like I was saying, yeah, some of these are ROM hacks. So right here we have another ROM hack. Although this is a real game, but it's labeled as Pokemon. We have a Pokemon Jade version. This game is basically an English version of a series of games which are called Telefang. Games, which are Japanese only exclusive Game Boy Advance games. Or actually Game Boy Color games, actually, not Game Boy Advance. There are two Game Boy Color games which only released in Japan. They have two versions, Telefang powered version and Telefang speed version. This is basically those games, but labeled as Pokemon, Pokemon Jade version. This one is ROM hack in English. There's also Pokemon Diamond version, which has a snake on the cover. Yeah, Pokemon Diamond before there was Pokemon Diamond. Yeah, this one has a horse, this horse type of thingy. I don't know. I don't really know if these mascots for these games are actually in the Telefang games. I don't really sure. But the Telefang games are basically sort of like Pokemon. You have these monsters which you fight with. You're sort of a trainer. It's basically that. It's basically Pokemon. It's basically sort of like Pokemon, but with different monsters, not really Pokemon. So yeah, this is actually one of the most well-known ROM hacks out there. You can find gameplays of it online, and it's very funny actually that they label this as Pokemon. Even more funny is the Diamond version, because Pokemon Diamond when there was not even Pokemon Diamond. So yeah. Very funny ROM hack. Then right here we have Spider-Man 2, The Sinister Six. This is not really that game, it's The Amazing Spider-Man for the original Game Boy. This one, Sinister Six, it's actually a Game Boy Color game, but this cartridge, in this cartridge, it's actually The Amazing Spider-Man, which is a Game Boy, original Game Boy game. This game is basically a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up game. You control Spider-Man. When you finish the level, before finishing the level, you fight bosses in the end. You fight Spider-Man villains. It's very generic, very basic. The swinging is very horrible as well. The swinging is very horrible. The gameplay is very bad. It's not. It's a really horrible game actually. The gameplay is so slow. Throwing a punch and a kick, it's very slow. The movement feels very dull. And yeah, the only good thing about this game really, and the most funny thing actually, which I found very funny, is before starting a level, you will see Spider-Man calling his enemies, Rhino and Scorpion and Mysterio, for example. He would call them and he would make jokes about them and stuff like that, and act very funny. I actually found that very, very funny actually. That's the only good thing about this game actually. All the rest just sucks pretty much. It's a horrible game, so yeah. Then right here we have Dragon Ball Z, just Dragon Ball Z. This game is actually an original Game Boy game, which is called Dragon Ball Z Goku Hoshida, which translates to Goku's Soaring Legend. This is a Japanese only game. It never released outside of Japan. It's very obscure, I believe. Really, I can't find much information about it. It's Japanese only. It's not really that great. So yeah. Then right here we have an awesome game actually. We have Pokemon Red. Now this is a fake cartridge. You can already tell because it's not colored. It's red. It's colored gray. Basically, pretty much up till the Game Boy Advance system, all the Pokemon cartridges will be colored. Like this one, for example, red will be colored red. The Pokemon Blue will be colored blue, and just like that, based on the version, the cartridge will be of a specific color. And this one being gray, you can already tell it's fake. That's the way you can tell it's fake, because it's gray. It should be red, not gray. But this is basically Pokemon Red. This is basically the real game though. But the problem is you cannot save it. So this is Pokemon Red, the real thing, but you just cannot save it. So no matter how far I went in this game, I could never really save it, and because of that I never actually got around to finishing it, unfortunately. This game, as well as Pokemon Blue for that matter, the first gen games, they're alright Pokemon games. They're not my favorite ones in the franchise. My favorite ones are the third gen games. These ones are known for having a lot of bugs and glitches you can do. There's a lot of glitch Pokemons and stuff like that. They actually are very well known for having a lot of bad sprites. When they were released in Japan in 1996, the sprites were very horrible, and these games were actually re-released in North America and other countries with updated sprites, because the sprites in the Japan only versions were very horrible. And so yeah, very, very enjoyable games, these first gen ones. They're pretty much the start of the Pokemon franchise, so you know what to expect. They're very, very awesome games. It just sucks that I could never really save this one, otherwise I would have finished it to the end. But yeah, basically Pokemon Red, the real thing, but you just cannot save it. Oh well. Then we have the following generation of games. I have two right here. I have Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Crystal. These were the second gen games. These ones are also fake, as you can see. They're not colored, they're the right colors, they're colored gray, so they're obviously fake. These ones, just like Pokemon Red, cannot save. They're the real things, they're Pokemon Gold and Crystal, the real games, but they cannot save. So yeah, like with Pokemon Red, no matter how far I went in these games, I could never save. So yeah, they had a save feature, but even if I choose to save, they would not save at all. It was always corrupted. So yeah, these games, the second gen games, are so much better than the Pokemon Red and Blue games, the first gen games. They added colors, they added more colors. They added better graphics as well. The musics are also very nice. They added a lot of new things, actually. A lot of new things which are still very important. Like for example, berries. They added berries. They added shinies as well. These were the first games to add shiny coloring as well in the Pokemons. They added EVs as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure. They added also the night and daytime, which was one of the best things about these games, were the night and day cycles. They only went back to that with the remakes for the DS, the Heart Gold and Soul Silver ones games. And I don't know why they stopped making that in the third gen games. That was one of the best things about these games, were the night and day cycles. But they're very awesome games. Very awesome games. I love the second gen games. I love them. Very awesome games. And so these are the ones I have. Pokemon Gold and Crystal. Fake ones, unfortunately. I cannot say them, but they're still very enjoyable. And I remember back in the day playing a lot of them, putting a lot of time in these ones. So yeah. Then right here we have 007 James Bond. The world is not enough. This game does not actually work. I tried to put it in my Game Boy. It does not actually work. So yeah, I can't really talk much about it. Then right here we have Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry Mouse Hunt. Yeah, Tom and Jerry Mouse Hunt. It does not say Mouse Hunt on the cartridge on the cover, but it's actually Tom and Jerry Mouse Hunt, which is a Game Boy Color game. So yeah. Then right here we have Astérix. This is actually an original Game Boy game, but this one also has colors. So this one might be an edited cartridge or a ROM hack. I'm not really sure, because the original one, being an original Game Boy only game, does not have colors. It's only black and white. This one has colors, so it might be a bootleg game. It might be edited, I don't know. So yeah. And then right here we have Carmageddon. I never actually played this game, so yeah, can't talk much about it. Then we have Disney's Dinosaur. I played this game a little bit back in the day. From what I remember, it's not really that great. It's very horrible, actually. You're placed in an overworld, if I'm not mistaken. You play with dinosaurs. Yeah, not really that great. So right here we have Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. This is actually an alright game. Not really that bad. It's a side-scrolling platform game. You play with Batman Beyond, which is like the Batman of the future. And yeah, I remember playing this game back in the day. I never actually finished it. It's an enjoyable game from what I remember. But yeah, I got this in the street market back in the day. So yeah, I actually love Batman Beyond a lot. Actually, one of my favorite Batmans ever made. So yeah. Then right here we have X-Men Mutant Wars. This is actually a very nice game. Actually, I remember playing this game quite a lot back in the day. This is a fighting game, a 2D fighting game. You obviously play with X-Men characters, and so yeah, it's basically that, just a 2D fighting game. It's all right for what it is. So yeah. Then right here we have two Power Rangers games. We have Power Rangers Rescue and Power Rangers 2 Time Force. These games are 2D platform games. They're not really that impressive. They're alright for what they are. The graphics are not really that bad. They're decent enough, I guess. You also have Megazord battles. You can battle in Megazords as well, which is a nice thing. And they're a little hard, if I remember. I don't remember much about them, but from what I remember, they're a little bit on the hard side. The controls are not really that fluid as well, but they're alright, I guess. They're alright games. And then to finish the Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges, I have two very awesome games actually. I have right here Mega Man Xtreme and Mega Man Xtreme 2. These games are very good actually, very good games. Really enjoyed them. The problem is they're very hard, and that's one of the the most well-known things about Mega Man games for the Game Boy systems is that they're very hard. These games are very, very hard. But they're very, very enjoyable. They're very nice games. These ones are actually the real thing. These ones are the real thing. So that's awesome. They're the real games. And yeah, like I was saying, they're very hard, but they're very enjoyable games. They're what you've come to know from Mega Man games. They're 2D platform games. They have good graphics. The graphics are very good in these games. The gameplay is very nice. The bosses also very decent. And so yeah, they're very hard games, but they're very enjoyable games, and probably the two best Game Boy Color games I have. So yeah, Mega Man Xtreme games, very nice games indeed. So now we're gonna go over my Game Boy Advance cartridges. These ones are the ones which I used to play most, so they're the ones I have the most fond memories of. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about them. Some of them I don't remember much, or I didn't play that much. So the ones I did not play as much, I'm gonna go just briefly over them. The ones I played the most, I'm gonna give some small reviews and some small thoughts of what I think about them. So first of all, we have Pinball Tycoon. This is actually the game which came with my Game Boy Advance SP. Back in the day when I bought my Game Boy Advance SP system, it came bundled with this game. This is a very generic pinball game, very generic for what it is, for the system, for what it is. Very generic game, so yeah, just a pinball game, nothing really fancy about it. Then right here we have Antz Xtreme Racing. This is a racing game, obviously. In this one you play with ants. Yeah, just the imagination there. You play with ants and you race in the carts. It's like Mario Kart, but with ants and other insects. So go figure. I never actually played this game that much, so yeah, I can't really talk much about it. I don't. It's basically just that, just a card game with the ants. So yeah. Then we have Defender. This is an airship game. In this is a, if I remember correctly, this is a 2D side-scrolling aircraft game or spaceship. You control these spaceships and you shoot other spaceships. Not really that great. It's actually a very horrible game from what I've seen from reviews and stuff like that. Very bad game. Not really that great, but oh well. Then right here we have an alright game actually. I remember playing this game back in the day. We have Digimon Racing. This is basically a rip-off of Mario Kart. Just like Antz Xtreme Racing, this is a kart racing game. In this one you play with Digimons. You can choose a lot of Digimons to play with. It's basically a Mario Kart but with Digimons pretty much. The graphics are not really that great. The gameplay is alright, I guess. You also face 3 bosses in this game. You face Omnimon, Diabromon and Melomiotismon, which is the final boss. It's an alright game, I guess. I bought it in the back in the day because I'm a big Digimon fan, so I had to have this game. This is unfortunately the only Digimon game I have for the system. I wish I had a Digimon Battle Spirits. That game is actually very nice. It's a 2D beat 'em up game, a fighting game. That one is very nice actually. I wish I had that one, but I don't. I only have this one, Digimon Racing. So yeah, basically just a Mario Kart but with Digimon. So yeah. Then right here we have a very horrible game. We have Dungeons and Dragons: Eye of the Beholder. This is a very, very horrible game. The graphics are very, very bad. This really does not live up to the standards of the original one on the NES, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was on the NES, the original Eye of the Beholder game. This one is very, very horrible. If you play this game, you're probably gonna get bored in the first minutes of it. I never actually got around to finishing it. It's also a very hard game, actually a very hard game, and it's very horrible, which is why I dropped it quite fast. I never actually played it that much. Very horrible game. Don't recommend it. Horrible. Then right here we have Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup. this game is alright. I remember playing this game. It's an alright game. It's decent enough. In this one, you basically just play Quidditch games. Like the title says, it's basically just Quidditch games. You only play Quidditch games. You can get new brooms. You can get new stuffs for Harry. It's an alright game. Nothing really that fancy. The graphics are not really that great. They're actually very bad. But for spending some time, it's an alright game, I guess. And so yeah, basically just Quidditch. So then we have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This is the Game Boy Advance version. I don't actually like this version. I very much prefer the Game Boy Color version, which is more sort of like Final Fantasy type of gameplay, where you fight enemies in turns. It's a turn-based system. In this one, you fight enemies in real time, not in turn-based like in the Game Boy Color one. This one, like I was saying, I don't enjoy this version as much as the Game Boy Color one. The graphics are not really that great. I never actually finished this game. I believe I got stuck in the middle of it. I didn't know how to proceed. It's not really that great of a game. The Game Boy Color version is so much better. I really enjoy the Game Boy Color version. This one, not so much. But yeah, it's just a Harry Potter game I have, so yeah. Then right here we have The Hobbit. This is the Game Boy Advance version. This one is not really that known, not a really well-known game. It's alright, I guess. The graphics are not really that great. The gameplay is decent enough. I actually enjoyed the bosses. I never actually got around to finishing this game. I got stuck in the middle of it because I didn't know what to do, so I got stuck in the middle of it. But I remember actually battling a boss, which was this Kraken sort of squid monster. I remember that was the thing that's the thing I remember most about this game. It's basically an RPG game, not really that fancy. It's alright, I guess, but not really one that I recommend. So yeah. Then right here we have Medal of Honor Underground. This is the Game Boy Advance version. This game is very bad game. This is a very bad game. The graphics are really horrible. I mean, it's a Game Boy Advance version port, I know, and most Game Boy ports, the graphics are always horrible most of the time. But this game just looks so horrible, the graphics, and the gameplay is very bad. It's very bad game. I don't recommend it. One of the worst Game Boy Advance games I have. So yeah, very horrible game. Don't recommend it. Then right here we have actually a very nice Game Boy Advance port. We have Doom 2, Hell on Earth. This is a very nice port for the system. The graphics are not really as good as the PC and PlayStation versions, but it's basically the same game. The only thing is the graphics are a little bit downgraded, obviously, because this is a Game Boy Advance port. But it's still the same game. Everything is intact. You fight every single enemy you face in the other versions as well. There's also the secret levels, which I never actually got around to them. I never actually entered the secret levels. I back in the day when I used to play this game, I didn't know how to enter the secret levels, the secret exits for the levels. So yeah. But I didn't finish the game. It's a very nice game. Doom 2 is a very awesome game. This game has some of the best, some of my favorite maps actually in the franchise. I really enjoyed the map 20 Gotcha, where you can have the Spider Mastermind and the Cyber Demon, which are the two strongest monsters in the game. The two bosses fight each other. You can have them fight each other. That's one of the best things. One of my favorite memories of this is actually having both of the Cyber Demon and the Spider Mastermind fighting each other in map 20 Gotcha. So yeah, it's a very nice game. The only bad thing really, aside from the graphics, are the gameplay, because this is the Game Boy Advance version. The gameplay is not really that comfortable. Playing on the Game Boy, It's not really as comfortable as playing on like the PC, for example. But aside from that, it's a very nice game, very awesome first-person shooter, and I highly recommend it if you're into first-person shooters. So yeah, Doom 2. Then right here we have a very obscure game, I believe. Not many people know this game, I don't think. We have Altered Beasts: Guardian of the Realms. This is sort of a sequel, you could say. It's basically a game in the same franchise of the original Altered Beast, which is a Sega Genesis game. It was also ported to other systems as well, but it was first released on the Sega Genesis, if I'm not mistaken. This game is basically like that original game, the original Altered Beasts. In these games you play as this hero character, which in this one it's Heracles, which is Zeus's son, and you can transform yourself to creatures like werewolves and dragons and other mythological creatures. In this one, you have 10 different beasts you can transform into. Some of them include a werewolf. You also have a naga, which is a snake-like creature. You also have a saber-tooth. You can also evolve to a shark. There's also a chimera, which is the final beast you get in the game. This game, most people, when they first see gameplay of this game, they think it's very horrible because of the graphics. And yes, the graphics are not really that great. The graphics are very bad, actually. This is basically a 2D beat 'em up type of game. The graphics are not really that great, but the gameplay is actually very enjoyable. I don't really see the point, the hate for this game. I think this game is actually very nice. The music is also very decent as well. The final boss, it's actually very easy. That's one of the biggest negatives of this game is the final boss. The final boss is actually very easy. It's much easier than some of the bosses in the other levels. In this game you have 15 levels, which you have to complete, or rather 14 actually, 14 levels. The 15th level is the final boss. You basically play as Heracles. Zeus summons you from the grave, and you have the duty to protect the realms. So you have to beat this demon boss, this demon guy, which has 4 arms. He has imprisoned Zeus, and your job is to defeat him and set free Zeus. And like the title says, Guardian of the Realms, you then become the Guardian of the Realms. So yeah, it's an alright game. Like I was saying, it's very nice. One of the biggest positives, in my opinion, of this game is actually the design. I actually enjoyed the design of some of these bosses. Actually, some of these bosses are actually very twisted looking. Some of them are very weird as well. There's a lot of weird bosses in this one, but it's an alright game. Like I was saying, I actually enjoyed this game a lot, and I would go as too far to say that it's a hidden gem on the system. Most people are probably not gonna like it, but I enjoyed it. So yeah, Altered Beast: Guardian of the Realms. Then right here we have 2 Pac-Man games. We have Pac-Man World and Pac-Man World 2. These are the Game Boy Advance versions. These ones play just like the PlayStation versions. They are just like the PlayStation versions. They are 3D. They're 3D based Pac-Man games. The original ones on the PlayStation, I actually only owned the first Pac-Man World game on the PS1. That game is actually a very nice game. In my opinion, it's a hidden gem. In my opinion, it's a very awesome game. These ones are basically just like that. They're basically just ports of those games. I never actually owned the Pac-Man World 2 for the PlayStation version. I only owned the first one, the Pac-Man World 1. These ones are alright, I guess. They're not really as great as the PlayStation versions, but they're alright games. I actually enjoy these games a lot. The biggest positives of these games are actually the 3D aspect of them. In these games, you play, like I was saying, you play as Pac-Man in 3D. They're in 3D perspective. In this one, Pac-Man has arms and legs. and you can bounce and you can collect fruits and stuff like that, just like in the original arcade games. They're actually very alright. They're actually very awesome. I can't really say much about the Game Boy Advance ports, but at least from what I know, the PlayStation 1 version of Pac-Man World is a very awesome game. You have a lot of different scenarios as well. You have space levels, you have pirate levels, desert levels, ruins. It's a very alright franchise. From what I know from reviews, the second and third one are not as great as the first one, but the first one is very nice actually. And and I highly recommend that one, Pac-Man World 1 for the PlayStation 1. These ones, the Game Boy Advance versions are also alright, but the PlayStation 1 versions are much better. So yeah, decent games, I guess. Then right here we have a very awesome game. This is Shining Soul. This is not really that known. There was also Shining Soul 2, which is more known than this one. This first game is not really that well known. These are RPG games. They're actually very hard actually. This game, I remember never actually finishing this game because I got stuck in the fourth boss because it was so hard to beat her. These games are very hard. I never actually played the second one. I only have this one, the first one. They're basically RPG games. You can choose between 4 characters. You can be a warrior, a male warrior. Then you also have an archer. You also have a dragon type of character. And you also have a mage, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, a mage. You also have a mage. And it's it's a very nice RPG for the system. Probably not on people's top favorites. It's not really that well known. The second one is a lot better than this one, the first one. But this first one is alright, I guess. It's a little bit hard, like I was saying. It's hard. These games are hard, but they're very enjoyable. And so yeah, if you're looking into collecting RPG games, I highly recommend this game, Shining Soul. Very alright game, very nice. Then right here we have Dragon Ball Z Taiketsu. This is actually a very bad game. This is probably the worst Dragon Ball game ever made. I believe in some people's opinions it's one of the worst. In my opinion, it is the worst in my opinion. This game is very bad. The graphics are very bad. The characters are basically like rag dolls. They're very bad. They play very bad. The gameplay is very horrible as well. I remember back in the day when I used to play this game, I never actually got around to doing most of the super attacks because they're very hard to do. I think you have to button mash. You have to button mash every single button to do some super attacks. I remember button mashing every single time and I'm not actually being able to do the supers. Really, the only really memorable thing about this game is Broly. In this game you can actually play as Broly. I believe it was one of the first games where you could actually play as Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. But yeah, it's a very horrible game. The music, the soundtrack is alright. That's probably the best thing about this game. All of the rest is just horrible. The gameplay is horrible, the graphics are horrible. And overall it's a very bad game, so I don't really recommend it. So yeah, I just got it back in the day because of the cover art. I enjoyed the cover art, and because I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, so that's the reason I got it in the time. But this is a horrible game, the worst Dragon Ball Z game ever made, in my opinion. So yeah, don't play it. Play this one instead. This is another Dragon Ball Z game I have. This one is so much better than the last one. This is Dragon Ball Z Super Sonic Warriors. This is a very nice game. There was also a sequel for the DS only. This is the first one. This is a 2D fighting game. You have a lot of characters in this one actually. Some of the characters, like Cell for example, they only have some forms. Like Cell only has perfect Cell. He doesn't have imperfect and semi-perfect. And like Goku for example only has Super Saiyan forms, as well as the other Saiyans, Vegeta as well. They added more of the forms and other transformations in the sequel, Super Sonic Warriors 2. But this is still a very nice game. Very awesome gameplay. The graphics are decent. The graphics are actually very good. Very enjoyable game. One of the best things about this game, my favorite thing about this game, is the story mode. In this game, you can play as different characters. All of the characters in this game, all of the characters in this game have a story to them. Goku, like for Goku, for example, Vegeta, Cell, Dr. Gero, Majin Buu. All of them have their own stories, and there's also what if stories, and that's the best thing about this game. Actually, it's the what if stories. Like for example, when you play Cell's story, you can actually battle Majin Buu. In his story, you actually beat the Z fighters, and then you go on to fight Majin Buu and Frieza, for example, Frieza as well. You get to defeat Goku, and he becomes the emperor of the universe. And that's really the best thing about this game. Actually, it's the what if stories. They have a lot of interesting scenarios and playouts. And yeah, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, I highly recommend this game. One of the best Dragon Ball Z games in the system. Well, not one, the best one, because I believe that this is only the second one aside from Taiketsu, which I've shown. I think these are the only two games on the system. I'm not really sure. This one is a very nice game. The sequel is even better, but this one is very nice. And like I was saying, the story mode is the best thing about this game. The story mode is awesome. Those what if stories. So yeah, very awesome game. Highly recommend it. Then right here we have a very awesome game. I used to play this game all the time. We have Spyro Adventure, also known as Spyro Attack of the Rhinorchs in America. This is a very awesome game. This is a very nice game. The graphics are very nice. The gameplay is very good. This game, the story follows Ripto. In this game, you face Ripto, which was introduced back in the PS1 era in Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage. This is based on that story, Ripto. In this game, you face Ripto. This game, you can also play as other characters as well. You can play as Agent 9 and Captain. I don't remember his name. It's a penguin character. So yeah, you can actually play as those characters as well. You can play as Spyro. This game is very enjoyable. It's got a lot of side quests, a lot of stuff you can do. The level variety is also very nice. You have ice levels. You have theme park levels. You have the first level, which is the first world actually, which is the Dragon's World. You also have digital cybernetic type of worlds, and the bosses, well, not really that impressive, are alright, I guess. The gameplay is very nice. You also have different powers as well. You have fire, thunder, and ice, and yeah, a very nice game, very enjoyable game. If you're a Spyro fan, I highly recommend this game. This is, in my opinion, the best Game Boy Advance Spyro game in the system. The best Spyro game for the Game Boy Advance. There was also Spyro Season of Flame and Season of Ice. We started sort of like this one, but this one is better than those ones. This one has a lot of new stuff. The graphics are also better. The gameplay is better as well. And yeah, if you're a Spyro fan, I highly recommend this game. Very awesome game. Spyro Attack of the Rhinorchs. Amazing game. I actually got around to finishing all of it, and it's a very enjoyable game. Highly recommend. Then right here we have Crash Fusion, Crash Bandicoot Fusion, also known as Crash Purple Ripto's Rampage in North America. This game, I have it repeated. I have another one right here as well. It also comes in this pack cartridge. Crash and Spyro Super Pack Volume 3. This also has Spyro Fusion as well. I'm gonna talk about both of the Spyro and Crash games because they're basically similar. So basically, these games, Crash Fusion and Spyro Fusion, are basically 2D platform games. They're mostly based around the mini games. In these games, you have different levels you can play, and you also can play many mini games. Like for example, you can play in cart-based types of mini games and spaceships and stuff like that. You have a lot of these mini games. In Crash, for example, you have one which is very funny actually, where you have to lift some weights. So yeah, they're alright games. The graphics aren't really that great. Most people don't really like these games from reviews I have seen, but they're very enjoyable games. I highly recommend them. They're actually very awesome because you can actually play against Spyro and Crash in these games. They're basically crossover games. Your first boss, depending on the version of the game, your first boss is either Spyro or Crash. And I love that. I actually love that about these games is the fact that they cross over. You also can collect cards as well from both the Spyro and Crash universes. And so yeah, very enjoyable games. Like I was saying, they're mostly based around the mini games, but they also have normal levels as well, and they're very enjoyable. If you want to add sort of a different take on both franchises, then I recommend this. They're alright, very good games. The graphics, like I was saying, are not really that impressive, but they're very awesome games. So yeah, if you're a fan of Spyro and Crash, then I will recommend these games. Then we have right here another Super Pack game. This is Crash and Spyro Super Pack Volume 2. This comes with Crash Nitro Kart and Spyro 2 Season of Flame. I'm not really going to talk about Spyro Season of Flame because, like I was saying, it's basically just like Spyro Adventure. It's basically the same type of gameplay. So I'm only going to talk about Crash Nitro Kart. Crash Nitro Kart, this is the Game Boy Advance version. There was also the PlayStation 2 version as well. This version is actually very awesome. Actually, this version is very nice. This game is basically just that. It's a kart racing game, but with Crash characters. This type of Crash games started on the PlayStation 1 with Crash Kart Racing, I believe it was the name. That game was very highly regarded in the day, and it still is. It's still one of the best Crash games ever made. This one is no exception. This is a very good game as well. I actually enjoyed this version, even though it's the Game Boy Advance version. I think this version is better than the PS2 version. I'm not really sure. I enjoyed this game a lot, actually. In this game, you can find fake Crash. You can find fake Crash in this game. Yeah, it's a very enjoyable game. You have a lot of characters you can play as. You can also play as some enemies of Crash. You have bosses you must race with and defeat them. In the end, you face this guy named Velo, which is the kart racing king. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable game. If you like kart racing games like Mario Kart and stuff like that, then I highly recommend this game. This game is just as good as Mario Kart. Very enjoyable game, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, Crash Nitro Kart, very nice game. The soundtrack is also very nice as well. The soundtrack is very good as well. I actually enjoyed the soundtrack as well. The soundtrack is very nice. If you want to have a listen, you can search online. It's very nice, the soundtrack. So yeah. Now we're gonna go over some Sonic games. Starting off, we have a multi-card game. This comes with two games. This comes with Sonic Advance and Sonic Pinball Party. I'm first gonna talk about Sonic Pinball Party. So just like the name suggests, this is a pinball game but with Sonic characters. It's alright, I guess. I played it a little bit back in the day. I never actually got around to finishing it because it's a very hard game actually. It's very hard for a pinball game. It's alright. You can face a lot of Sonic characters like Knuckles and Knights. There's also Knights in this one. You also can face Eggman. You can also face Metal Sonic as well. It's basically just a pinball game, but with Sonic characters. It's alright, I guess. The boards are very stylish. I really enjoyed the boards. But the game can be quite challenging to get the ball in some places and stuff like that. You can also get the Chaos Emeralds as well in this game. Yeah, it's an alright game for a pinball game, I guess. So now I'm gonna talk about Sonic Advance, as well as the sequels, which I also have. I have Sonic Advance, Sonic Advance 2, and Sonic Advance 3. I have all the 3 Sonic Advance games. These games are some of the best games I have for the system. Actually, I love these games. I love the Sonic Advance. I love the Sonic Advance series of games. If you never played these games, then I highly recommend them. They're very awesome Sonic games. They're like the first Sonic games, the first original games. They're the 2D platform games. Very awesome games. The music in these games is very nice. The soundtrack is very awesome in all of them, in all 3 of these games. The graphics are very nice as well. The bosses are some of the best ones as well. The third one actually has the best bosses. The bosses in the third one are amazing. They're very well designed. And so, yeah, they're very awesome games. The level designs are actually very nice as well. Now, the first one, Sonic Advance, the first Sonic Advance is the shortest one. It's got the fewest levels, but it's very awesome. I actually enjoyed the Chow Garden. You have this garden. You have this Chow, which you can take care of. You also have mini games as well, which you can play. I remember spending a lot of time in that mini game, the Chow Garden. And yeah, the level designs are very awesome, as you can expect from Sonic games. Very enjoyable game, Sonic Advance, the first one. Not really my favorite one, but it's very awesome game and I highly recommend it. The second one, Sonic Advance 2, added a lot more difficulty. This one is a lot more difficult. They added a lot more bottomless traps, and the levels are harder as well. The bosses are also harder as well. There's more levels in this one. This one is much more enjoyable than the first one. I enjoyed this one a lot more. This is regarded as the best one in the series. This is actually people's favorite one. My favorite one is the third one, but this one is not really that far behind. This is a very nice game, very awesome. The bosses, like I was saying, are very good. The level designs are very awesome. This one actually has the best level designs in my opinion. The best level designs are in this one, Sonic Advance 2. And it's a very awesome game, I highly recommend it. So yeah, and then to finish it all off, we have the third and final game, which is Sonic Advance 3. This one has gotten some mixed reviews, and that is because this one adds a dual partner system actually. In this one you play with a partner. It's basically co-op. You can play as Sonic and you can also have Tails backing you up, or you can play as Knuckles and have like Cream, for example. And what this one introduced a partner system, and with that it also introduced new gameplay mechanics. In this one you can use your partner to reach areas which are harder to reach, and it also added something which I don't like, which are like switches. In this one you can press switches to make some platforms appear, to transition. I never really liked that. And that's one of the things about this game. The negatives is the level design overall. The overall level design in this one is not really that great. It's filled with bottomless pits, and the level design, there's a lot of areas which are really badly designed. They're not really as fluid as the Sonic Advance 1 and 2 games. In this one you have to stop a lot of times to press some switches to raise some platforms and stuff like that. and I never really enjoyed the game, the level design in this one. The gameplay is very awesome, but the level design is not really as great as the other two games. But what this game has that the other two don't have are the best bosses. This one has the best bosses. Period. The bosses in this one are very awesome, especially the final boss. In this game, you actually fight the Gamel. Gamel. It's a modified version, which Eggman programmed to be evil. And in the final level, when you collect all the 7 emeralds, you go to space and you actually join with Eggman to stop Gamel, and that boss is very awesome. All of the bosses in this game are awesome. Some of them are a little bit harder. I remember the 5th one being very hard actually. But yeah, a very awesome game. In this one, you actually have overworlds. You have overworlds which you can then access the levels. In the other ones, you don't have overworlds. In this one, you have overworlds, and you have 3 levels, which you must complete to unlock the boss. And so yeah, overall, it's a very nice game. Putting aside the level design, it's a very awesome game. All of these games are awesome. The Sonic Advance series of games, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of Sonic. They're some of my favorite Sonic games ever made. And yeah, very awesome games overall, very awesome packages, and I highly recommend it if you're a Sonic fan, or if you own the Game Boy Advance system, then you gotta own these games because these games are very, very awesome. The Game Boy Advance, the Sonic Advance games, very awesome games. Okay, so we're reaching the end now, and I saved the best 2 for last. So now we're gonna go over the Pokemon games. These ones are real. These ones are the real ones, not fakes. So first of all, we have Pokemon Leaf Green version. This game actually came with the wireless link, which I have attached to my Game Boy. It came with this game. Man, what can I say about this game? This is such an awesome game. I love these 3rd gen games. This complements the Fire Red one. I never actually owned the Fire Red. I only owned the Leaf Green. These are remakes. This one and the Fire Red one are remakes of the original games, Pokemon Red and Blue. These games are so amazing, so awesome. I love these games. I remember putting so many hours in these games, in these 3rd gen games. Like I was saying in the beginning of the video, the 3rd gen games are my favorite Pokemon games ever. I love these games. I love the design, the art style, the graphics. Although they're not as great, you can say they're not as 3D as later releases. But I remember always loving these graphics in these 3rd gen games. The graphics just stood out to me. I really enjoyed the graphics and the art style of these games. The sprites as well, they're very amazing. And these remakes added the CV Islands, which are like probably the best thing about these remakes are the CV Islands. The CV Islands are pretty much a way for the player to continue their journey. After you beat Elite Four, you can then go to the CV Islands, and you can do side quests. You can collect Pokemons from the Johto region as well. And yeah, overall they're very enjoyable games. I love these games to death. I really love these games. Highly recommended. If you own the Game Boy system or the Game Boy Advance system, you gotta own these games. The Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red games. They're very awesome games. Everything in these games is amazing. Everything. The soundtrack is awesome. The gameplay is awesome. The art style and the graphics are awesome. Everything is awesome in this game. I really enjoy these 3rd gen games. And man, if you're a Pokemon fan, you gotta own this game because this game is awesome. It's amazing. Awesome game. Awesome. I really love this game. I spent like I remember spending like over 100 hours in these games, just collecting and trading from cartridge to cartridge to collect them all. Never actually got around to collecting them all, obviously, but yeah, very enjoyable game, very awesome. These games are so amazing. I remember back when I was in school, playing these games in class, in my smartphone via emulator. So yeah, Pokemon Leaf Green, very awesome game. Awesome. Highly recommend it. And so now, to finish the video, we have my favorite Game Boy Advance game ever and my favorite Pokemon game ever made. It's so good that I wanted to have it stored in this box right here. And that game is Pokemon Emerald version. This game is beyond amazing. This is such an awesome game. This is my favorite Pokemon game ever made. The third gen Pokemon games based on their own region, this one, Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire, are so amazing. They're so amazing. They added a lot of cool stuff to the Pokemon franchise. They're my favorite entries in the series. I love the own region. Some people like IGN didn't actually like the own region because of the amount of water you have, but I never really found that to be a problem. I actually enjoyed the water sections. It's not really that vast, I would say. I mean, you still have a lot of land as well. They just added a lot of water areas because of the new mechanics like the dive system, for example. Speaking of the dive system, that you can in these games you can actually dive underwater, and you have these underwater caverns, which are very awesome. This game, what can I say? This game is so awesome. This version, the Emerald version, introduced the Battle Frontier, which you can access after you beat Elite Four. I never actually got all the symbols on the Battle Frontier because it's very hard, especially the pyramid, the Pokemon pyramid is very hard actually. But it just adds a lot of replay value, the Battle Frontier. Yeah, I never actually finished the Battle Frontier 100%, but I did finish this game a lot. I put a lot of hours in this game, and this is an amazing game. In this game, they actually added some animations to the sprites, which I really enjoyed. They added animations to the sprites. Rayquaza, the mascot for this game, is such an awesome Pokemon. I really enjoy Rayquaza. The story is so awesome. The story is very awesome. It's more dark than the previous entries. In this game, you battle against Team Aqua and Team Magma. I always enjoyed Team Aqua and Team Magma. They're much more serious than Team Rocket. In the first games, Team Rocket, they're very not really that. They don't have a real goal, like you could say. Their goal really is just to please Giovanni and steal Pokemon. In this one, Team Aqua and Team Magma actually have some objectives. Actually have a real objective in mind, which they want to fulfill. They basically want a better world. Each one of them, in this example, Team Magma, they want to release Groudon and expand the land territory. They want to expand the land in the world because of the amount of water that there is. And Team Aqua is basically the opposite. They want to release Kyogre and expand the water so the sea life can have a better world and stuff like that. So in these games, I actually really enjoyed that. The fact that the teams in these games actually have some motives behind them, and they're also very nice. You battle against them in many times during gameplay, and you battle their leaders as well. And yeah, they're probably my favorite teams in Pokemon games. I never actually enjoyed the following teams like Team Galactic and the other ones which they introduced in the following games. Team Aqua and Team Magma are still my favorite teams, and they're very awesome. Much better than Team Rocket. And so yeah, Team Aqua and Team Magma definitely added some weight to the story, which is why the story is also very nice because of these teams. Like I was saying with Pokemon Leaf Green, these are my favorite graphics in the franchise. I really enjoyed these graphics. They're simple and effective. They're very appealing to the eye. I love the third gen graphics. They're very awesome. And yeah, the gameplay is very nice. What can be said? What can be said as has already been said. this franchise of Pokemon games is very awesome. These entries in the franchise are the best in my opinion. You also have contests which you can participate on. You have a lot of replay value. You have a lot of cool stuff you can do. The legendaries in this game are also very awesome as well. I remember back in the day trying to get like to Deoxys, for example, but never actually being able to, because you had to participate in some events which were only held in like Japan and North America, so you could never get like Deoxys, for example, but you can get to them now via ROMs and stuff like that. But yeah, this is such an awesome game, Pokemon Emerald, my favorite Game Boy Advance game ever made, and one of my favorite games ever made. I highly recommend this game. If you own the Game Boy Advance system, then you gotta own this game, because this game is a masterpiece. Such an awesome game. Awesome. I love the Pokemon 3rd gen series of games. After this one, starting with Gen 4, in my opinion, is when Pokemon really started to fall off in terms of being good. It started to fall off, in my opinion, in the 4th gen of games. But these games, the 3rd gen ones, are still my favorite ones. My favorite region is Owen, and yeah, if you're a Pokemon fan, you have to own this game. If you're not a Pokemon fan, you have to own this game as well, because this is such an awesome game, and yeah, very good, and my favorite game in the system, and one of my favorite games ever made. So yeah. And well, guys, that was my Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Overall, it's a very awesome system, the Game Boy Advance system, as well as the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color ones. This system really got me into gaming. This was one of the first systems which got me really into gaming. I remember spending a lot of hours in some of these games, like the Pokemon games, for example. And yeah, being portable, you can play them anywhere you wanted. And so yeah, I really wanted to have owned the DS system as well. I only played the DS system from some friends back when I was in school. But yeah, the Game Boy Advance system, very awesome system, one of my favorite ones. And yeah, thank you Nintendo for making my childhood so awesome. I really enjoyed the Game Boy Advance system. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll be bringing you, following this video, I'll be bringing you my PC video game collection. That's gonna be the last entry in this series of video game collections. And so yeah, stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm sorry for some articulation problems here and there, but overall I think this video came out pretty decent enough. And so yeah, with this I'm gonna put an end to the video. See you guys in the next one, and yeah, Game Boy for life, dog, because this system is amazing. Unholy Omega, signing out. Have a good one.